I wanted to be a news director. There weren't any who were Black. I was at the Dallas Times-Herald, now defunct, and I became president of the Dallas Press Club and came to the attention of the inimitable Marty Haig, who was the news director at WFAA-TV in Dallas, because I turned the content of the press club from a bunch of guys sitting around drinking to let's deconstruct and the news stories and tell the story behind the story. So our monthly meetings consisted of some really news-making circumstances. And Linnell Jeter was accused of having committed an armed robbery of a fast food joint 90 miles south of where he worked. People even testified that he was at work, but the people at the restaurant identified him as the person who had committed this crime. He was convicted, and I was president of the local chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists. And so I contacted all of the local members who were working in newspaper, radio, television, and I said, we need to go deeper into this story. We got to get this brother out of jail, because all the folks who we talked to, who we felt were credible, said that he was at work. Well, we opened up the story. They reopened the case. He was found not guilty. He was released. And that was sort of one of the bigger stories that we had at a Dallas Press Club meeting, because we had the prosecutor, the defense attorneys, and Linnell Jeter. Not too long after that, Marty asked me if I would consider joining WFAA TV. He wanted me to come into WFAA, but first I had to learn TV, and this would be a way for me to learn TV. And I said, okay, well, how long do you anticipate that's going to take? He said, well, we should give it 2 years. And I said, 2 years? He said, yeah, that's how long I think it'll take. I said, well, if I tell you that I'm a quick study and you agree that you won't hold me to this arbitrary 2-year time, and that I would move when we agree that I'm ready, what do you say? And he said, okay, we can do that. I would do it provided I could meet with him regularly. And the way I put it was that I wanted to be able to absorb everything possible out of his brain. I wanted to be able to ask him questions about everything and anything. And he said, sure. And so we would sit and talk about what was news and who gets to be the arbiter of news. And when you are the arbiter of news, the responsibility you have in terms of, do you hew to a particular crowd? Do you hew to a particular region? How do you do this? And geographically, demographically, and these are all the things that he and I would sit around and talk about. And I loved it. There weren't any Black news directors in the country. There were very few Blacks who were in executive positions in TV news stations. And so what I understood from the very beginning was that I was being groomed to take on a leadership role in a news department in the Belo Corporation.
This is the News 8 Update. KOTV 6, Tulsa. This is the News on 6, the 6 o'clock edition.
Now, from KHOU-TV in Houston, this is Channel 11 News at 10.
Growing up in Harlem, when I watched news, the reflection of my community was nothing but crime. So if the representation, as I saw in the newscast, was representative of my community, then everybody in my community was handcuffed and were criminals. And that was hardly the case, right? So one of the things that I knew when I got into news, when I got into newspaper news, even, was that there have to be voices that are going to advocate for fairness in coverage. You're not going to be successful by not fighting. You're going to have to fight. I was taught you're going to have to fight. Learn how to fight intellectually, learn how to fight physically. That I learned how to do too. And you see, I think that for a lot of women, well, these things aren't ladylike. You know, these things don't make you a good girl. Who said I have to be a good girl? And who said I have to be ladylike? What the hell is that? I was born Paula Williams. That's my father's name. And then I married a man whose name was Walker. And now I married Roosevelt. His name is Madison. He said, yes. None of those are my names. I said, those are the names of slave owners. What do I care what my last name is? I don't care. I said, it matters to you because you come from the people who were the slave owners. You were in the position of power and authority. I said, I was subjugated. I don't care about my last name. It doesn't matter to me. My boss's boss at WNBC came up with this plan that my boss, who was news director, and he needed to fly to Boston. Stations in Boston were changing their affiliation. And so we're going to go up there and make friends with the general manager, the news director, the blah, 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 blah. And I thought to myself, that doesn't make any sense. So about a week before it was time to go, he asked me, well, did you make your hotel reservations? And he said, don't worry about it. My assistant will take care of that. You'll be staying with me. And I said, you mean I'll be staying in the same hotel as you? He said, no, you'll be staying with me in my suite. And I said, you've seen my husband, haven't you? Yeah, I know him. Sure. I said, in my whole life, I have never fucked ugly, and I'm not about to start with you. Oh my God, Paula, oh my God, I was joking. Yeah, me too. And I walked away. And I went to my office in my little diary and I wrote down date and time, who said what to whom. And I took it home, put it back in my purse and took it home with me, kept all my little notes. When I worked for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, we were having an organizing meeting of the Dallas-Fort Worth Association of Black Communicators. We were the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter of NABJ. The bureau chief from Port Arthur, Texas, she said to me, I heard that there's a meeting at your house tonight, and that you know, a bunch of Black reporters are getting together and you all are going to form an organization. Right. She said, well, I don't think that's fair. And I looked at her and I said, I don't think I recall asking you what you thought. And there is an organization of white journalists. It's called Sigma Delta Chi. I think that I was able to break through that ceiling, possibly because I was a Black woman. I think that there was a certain fascination at times. I've had people say to me, well, you're different. You're not like most Black people I know. And my response is, no, I'm like all the Black people you know. I'm exactly like them. The difference is that some of them don't have the kind of access, don't have the comfort level to say what I'm saying, but I'm not any different. It's just that I'm going to speak my mind.
This is a special report from News Channel 4. Good evening once again. I'm Chuck Scarborough. We have more for you now on the crash of that TWA flight 800, a 747 bound from JFK Airport to Charles de Gaulle in Paris. Around 8:30 this evening, that aircraft plunged out of the sky and crashed 10 miles south of Mauritius Inlet in East Mauritius off the south shore of Long Island, as you can see on our map.
And I'm in the control room. We finally get the chopper launched, and it was horrific. It was dreadful. And I'm there, and the director is calling the shots, and the TD's punching, and we're seeing the bodies popping up from underwater, and the director's about to take it, and I'm don't take any of those shots. And they're looking at me like, because what is television? What is news? But great picture. We got great picture. Like, no. And I said out loud, those people are neighbors. They could be, do not take any of those pictures. No popping up. Orthodox, the Hasidic Jews, were driving in a caravan fast through the streets of Brooklyn, and they happened to have been going through a historically black section when car went out of control, jumps the curb, and killed a 6-year-old boy. I know these people because these are culturally, racially, sociologically, this is my spot. I get there and I tell the live truck, break down. When those masks go up, there's going to be hell out here. And sure enough,
violence exploded as the mob spotted news vans, forcing the media inside the building.
We were live from 2 blocks away, and the other stations put up the masks on that block with that building in the background. One of those stations had their van, their live truck, rocked and tipped over. So I decided that my mom was always so sad because her family wasn't there. And I decided when I was 6 years old, I'm going to find her father. I'm going to make this happen. Well, every 4 years, there's a conference of these people called Hakka, Hakka, and I am Hakka Chinese. So long story short, 2 months later, I was in China meeting my mother's sister and her brother. I shot a documentary, I wrote a book, and we went there, and 325 of my grandfather's direct descendants welcomed us into the family. Journalists are going to have to stand up more. It's not enough to be a great journalist and cover the news. We're actually supposed to defend and propagate the principles and tenets of journalism. And for those who do not comply, we need to drum them out of the profession. If we don't protect journalism, who's going to? A rebellion is underway. You're seeing it at the Washington Post. You saw it at NBC News. I am now hopeful.